And always it shall remain the story of Hussein. Our poets they write to us, our reciters they tell us. And always it shall remain the story of Hussein. Our poets they write to us, our reciters they tell us.
كاميرا واضحة. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الخلق والمرسلين سيدنا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
It is stated from Fudail ibn that has reported that Imam Sadiq alayhi salam said, "What prevents a merchant who is engaged in business in the market from reciting a chapter of the Holy Quran when he comes home and before going to bed? For every verse which he recites, 10 good deeds are written and 10 of his bad deeds are written off." Inshallah, we're going to start with the ziyarah, Tuarith, and after that, we'll do the Quran. So please help me welcome Brother Ali with a loud salawat. أفلح من أعاد الصلاة على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل
على محمد وآل محمد.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أزور سيدي ومولاي ذخري وذخيرتي أبي عبد الله الحسين زيارة وطاعة عني ونيابة عن والدي ووالد والدي وإخواني وأخواتي والمؤمنين والمؤمنات ومن قلدني الدعاء والزيارة. السلام عليك يا وارث آدم صفوة الله. السلام عليك يا وارث نوح نبي الله. السلام عليك يا وارث إبراهيم خليل الله. السلام عليك يا وارث موسى كليم الله. السلام عليك يا وارث عيسى روح الله. السلام عليك يا وارث محمد حبيب الله. السلام عليك يا وارث أمير المؤمنين ولي الله. السلام عليك يا ابن محمد المصطفى. السلام عليك يا ابن علي المرتضى. السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة الزهراء. السلام عليك يا ابن خديجة الكبرى. السلام عليك يا ثار الله وابن ثاره والوتر الموتور. أشهد أنك قد أقمت الصلاة وآتيت الزكاة وأمرت بالمعروف ونهيت عن المنكر وأطعت الله ورسوله حتى أتاك اليقين. فلعن الله أمة قتلتك، ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك، ولعن الله أمة سمعت بذلك فرضيت به. يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله، أشهد أنك كنت نورا في الأصلاب الشامخة والأرحام المطهرة، لم تنجسك الجاهلية بأنجاسها، ولم تلبسك من مدلهمات ثيابها. وأشهد أنك من دعائم الدين وأركان المؤمنين. وأشهد أنك الإمام البر التقي الرضي الزكي الهادي المهدي. وأشهد أن الأئمة من ولدك كلمة التقوى وعلام الهدى والعروة الوثقى والحجة على أهل الدنيا. وأشهد الله وملائكته وأنبياءه ورسله أني بكم مؤمن وبإيابكم موقن، بشرائع ديني وخواتيم عملي، وقلبي لقلبكم سلم وأمري لأمركم متبع. صلوات الله عليكم وعلى أرواحكم وعلى أجسادكم وعلى أجسامكم وعلى شاهدكم وعلى غائبكم وعلى ظاهركم وعلى باطنكم. زيارة العباس. السلام عليك يا أبا الفضل العباس ابن أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا ابن سيد الوصيين. السلام عليك يا ابن أول القوم إسلاما وأقدمهم إيمانا وأقومهم بدين الله وأحوطهم على الإسلام. أشهد لقد نصحت لله ولرسوله ولأخيك، فنعم الأخ المواسي. فلعن الله أمة قتلتك، ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك، ولعن الله أمة استحلت منك المحارم وانتهكت حرمة الإسلام. فنعم الصابر المجاهد المحامي الناصر والأخ الدافع عن أخيه المجيب إلى طاعة ربه الراغب فيما زهد فيه غيره من الثواب الجزيل والثناء الجميل. والحقك الله بدرجة آبائك في جنات النعيم. اللهم إني تعرضت لزيارة أوليائك رغبة في ثوابك ورجاء لمغفرتك وجزيل إحسانك، فأسألك أن تصلي على محمد وآله الطاهرين، وأن تجعل رزقي بهم دارا وعيشي بهم قارا وزيارتي بهم مقبولة وحياتي بهم طيبة، وأدرجني إدراج المكرمين، واجعلني ممن ينقلب من زيارة مشاهد أحبائك مفلحا منجحا قد استوجب غفران الذنوب وستر العيوب وكشف الكروب، إنك أهل التقوى وأهل المغفرة. وصلى اللهم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
أسمعك حبيبي.
أفلح من صلى على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
It's gonna be good. أحسنت. I can hold that in my hand. أحسنت.
على حب العباس عليه السلام أفلح من صلى على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن قارون كان من قوم موسى فبغي عليهم وآتيناه من الكنوز ما إن مفاتحه لتنوء بالعصبة أولي القوة إذ قال له قومه لا تفرح إن الله لا يحب الفرحين وابتغ فيما آتاك الله الدار الآخرة ولا تنس نصيبك من الدنيا وأحسن كما أحسن الله إليك ولا تبغ الفساد في الأرض إن الله لا يحب المفسدين قال إنما أوتيته على علم عندي أولم يعلم أن الله قد أهلك من قبله من القرون من هو أشد منه قوة وأكثر جمعا ولا يسأل عن ذنوبهم المجرمون ولا يسأل عن ذنوبهم المجرمون فخرج على قومه في زينته قال الذين يريدون الحياة الدنيا يا ليت لنا قال الذين يريدون الحياة الدنيا يا ليت لنا مثل ما أوتي قارون مثل ما أوتي قارون إنه لذو حظ عظيم وقال الذين أوتوا العلم ويلكم ثواب الله خير لمن آمن وعمل صالحا ولا يلقيها إلا الصابرون فخسفنا به وبداره الأرض فما كان له من فئة ينصرونه من دون الله وما كان من المنتصرين آمنا بالله صدق الله العلي العظيم عطروا مجالسكم بذكر الصلاة على محمد وآل محمد
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
أحسن الله إليكم
Ahsan, طيب الله أنفاسك. We apologize that we started a bit late today. Inshallah, tomorrow we'll be back at the 6:15, inshallah. So tonight is the night of Abu Fadl al-Abbas alayhi salam, and it is a very special night because Abu Fadl is a very special person. It is narrated that once Imam Ali alayhi salam seated his baby al-Abbas on his knees, lifted al-Abbas's hands, kissed them and wept. Watching this situation, the mother was surprised. Hence, Imam Ali alayhi salam told her about the future of her baby and what would happen to his hands. She was, as well as the others, wept heavily. After that, the Imam told her about her baby's great position with God, and this relieved her. Please help me welcome our dear Shaykh, Shafiq Hudda, with a loud salawat.
ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل، نعم المولى ونعم النصير. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين خالق السماوات والأرض، إلها واحدا أحدا صمدا لم يتخذ صاحبة ولا ولدا، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين رحمة للعالمين طه وياسين بالقاسم محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين المنتجبين، ورحمة الله على محبيهم، ولعنة الله على أعدائهم وقاتليهم، وغاصب حقوق حقهم ومنكر فضائلهم أجمعين من يومنا هذا إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم: إن الحسين مصباح الهدى وسفينة النجاة. صلوات على محمد وعلى محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
عظم الله أجورنا وأجوركم بمصابنا بالحسين عليه السلام. I convey condolences to the Imam of the time, Imam al-Hudda, to the Mu'mineen, to the household of the family, to the Ummah al-Islamiyya, to the Samawati wal-Ard, as we mark these days commemorating the martyrdom of Abu Abdullah alayhi salam. And perhaps one of the gifts we can give to the Ahlul Bayt, when people came to the Holy Prophet of Islam and they wanted to offer him something, after the message was conveyed, after everything was done, a lot of people, when it came to the Prophet, as should be expected, because there's a hadith that says, In tashkurun nas tashkurullah. When you thank your fellow human beings, you're actually thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They went to the Prophet and said that you've guided us, you saved us from the fire of Jahannam, you protected us from the anger and the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We want to give you something. We want to gift you something. Allahu Akbar. The Quran Majid narrates from the previous Anbiya that when every other prophet was asked that, what can we give you? Each and every one of them said, La as'alukum alayhi ajr. I ask you for no ajr. Ajri lillahi rabbil alameen. My reward is with the Lord of the universe. I don't want anything from you. Finished. When the Prophet was asked this, perhaps some in the Ummah thought that the Prophet will give the same answer as the previous Anbiya had done. When the previous Ummahs came to offer something, the Prophet said, no, Ajri lillahi rabbil alameen, my reward was Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So here the Quran Majid to the Holy Prophet of Islam, for guiding them, gave a similar answer in one perspective and then amended it and basically added to it in the remaining half of the statement. The Quran Majid says, Kulla as'alukum alayhi ajran. O Muhammad, reply to them, I ask you for no reward. I ask you for no ajr. I don't want anything from you. But Ya Rasulullah, some of us want to give you something. It shows our akhlaq. It shows our morals and values. Then the Quran says, Illa al-mawaddata fil qurba. Except that if you really want to give something, if you want to give a gift to the Holy Prophet of Islam, the Prophet for whom the samawat and the ard, the Prophet for whom the heavens and the earth are surrendering before, the Prophet for whom Allah Jalla Jalaluhu on the night of Mi'raj says, Oh Muhammad, you can have anything you want from the treasures of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Prophet remembered us at that time. That Prophet, what can we offer him? But the Quran says that if you want to show your akhlaq, you want to show your values and morals, then the Prophet says, follow my Ahlul Bayt. Do mawaddata fil qurba. Those who are near and dear to me, follow their ways and listen to them and obey them and love them. One salawat upon Muhammad and Ali Muhammad. So one of the ways we show our love to the Ahlul Bayt is through the majalis of Abu Abdullah al-Husayn. One of the ways we show our love to the Ahlul Bayt is by attending, participating, listening to, watching the remembrance of Abu Abdullah alayhi salam. And the Prophet has been quoted as saying, زَيِّنُوا مَجَالِسِكُمْ بِذِكْرِ عَلِي ibn Abi Talib. And Jazakallah khair. enliven your gatherings, your majalis, your discussions with the remembrance of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Allahu Akbar. And so what we find is that the message that is conveyed in the nights of Muharram, inshallah, when we leave from here, if we have taken something with us, then we have conveyed the gift to the Ahlul Bayt. If we leave with something better than when we came in with, when we leave in these 10 days or 12 days or however many days we are able to participate and take part, we have actually tried our best to give a gift to the Ahlul Bayt. إِلَّا الْمُوَدَّةَ فِي الْقُرْبَى. We become a little closer. We get a little more loving towards the Ahlul Bayt. We inshallah implement a message. Oftentimes people say that, when the month of Muharram comes, what is a gift we can give to the Ahlul Bayt? What is a gift we can give to Abu Abdullah for all the suffering that he went through? Simply put, we can make a pledge to the Imam. We can make a pledge to the Imam of the time that, Mawla, we will do something better that we were not doing before the month of Muharram started. Maybe one extra ibadat, maybe one extra dhikr, maybe one extra tasbih, maybe one extra salah, maybe one extra salatul layl, maybe one extra remembrance, maybe one sin we will try to control and keep our power over. Maybe one bad deed that is in our life, we will try and get rid of that. Any of these, inshallah, will really mean that we are true and sincere in our allegiance, our bay'ah to the Imam. Yesterday night we were talking about how even the family of the Imam was so close to him and was ready also to sacrifice, because when you have to talk about life and death, the most challenging part is to give one's life. To give money is easy, to give time is not so difficult, but to give your life, and then even those who are close to the Imam, the companions, you heard yesterday that not one companion allowed any family member of Abu Abdullah to go into the battlefield. And the family becomes an integral unit in Islam. And this is where, as you will note, not every night can we finish the entire subject matter. And I do not wish to cause any burden or difficulty for having to make you listen to me for longer than what is allocated. Of course, I do sometimes go over and I ask your forgiveness. I ask Abu Abdullah's forgiveness for that as well, because I understand, if I go over, that affects the entire program. So I will try to summarize and keep everything within the scope and the time. So if I do not complete something in one discussion, I will continue it as I need to tonight. We were talking about family relationships. We were talking about what strengthens the family, because if the family is strong, the community becomes strong. If the community is strong, the ummah becomes strong. So there are global implications to all of that. So the Quran is reminding us and guiding us on how our interrelationships need to be in the family. And when we look at how, because we're all social, we all need to have interaction. And I never knew this word, social distancing. I'm wondering who came up with that terminology. And this, self-isolation. Because, we are known, and sociologists call us, social animals. I don't like this terminology, but this is what sociologists refer to the human being as. We are known as social animals. That means that we need interaction with each other. If you look at the prison system, if you look at somebody who is to be given the most severe form of punishment in a North American society, they talk about solitary confinement. They put them in solitary confinement. They put that person alone, no mingling, no interaction with other prisoners. And that is when they have committed something very, very horrendous, according to the Western system. So we are social, we need each other. And so when we look at our first social interaction, when we look at what is the first initial social interaction we have, that is in our family. When we were born, we are surrounded by our parents, in most cases. Now again, of course, there are going to be exceptions. Some might be single parents, some might have passed away, some may have been adopted, some may have gone through. But what we're saying is that in that first social gathering is with our parents or our guardians. So the Quranic Majid comes right there and reminds us, وَكَذَا رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنَ إِحْسَانًا. Allah decrees that you worship none other than Him. You worship nobody else except Him. And we've talked about a few nights on what La ilaha illallah means. You worship nobody else except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنَ إِحْسَانًا. In the same breath, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and do good to your parents. And the Quran then goes on, he says that it says, the Quran Majid says, that do good to your parents. The word وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنَ إِحْسَانًا. This word ihsan, from the same as hasana. It's very beautiful, it's very unique. It means do good to your parents. It's a very simple translation. Do good to your parents. If you help them out, if they ask for something, give it. One commentator gave me a very beautiful sort of explanation on what it is. It means, if you were to go into a depth of it, and if you were to go into the Mufassireen's commentaries, the commentary of the Holy Quran in these particular verses, it actually means that give them water, for example, before they become thirsty. Offer them rest before they get tired. Yani be proactive rather than reactive. That was wabil walidain ihsana means. And then the Quran goes on in these ayat of Surah Bani Israel that in case فَلَا تَقُلْ لَهُمَا عُفٍّ وَلَا تَنْحَرْهُمَا وَقُلْ لَهُمَا قَوْلًا كَرِيمًا. When you are speaking to them, فَلَا تَقُلْ لَهُمَا عُفٍّ. When you're talking to them, don't even say off to them. Talk to them gently, calmly, peacefully. And the word off, sometimes we don't understand when we're reading even the translation of the Quran Majid. We sometimes have a hard time understanding, okay, what does off mean? I have never said off to my parents. I'm sure all of you will agree that, that we've never said off to our parents. What does it really mean in today's terminology? The commentators have said that the word off is actually a very, very simple, soft-spoken term that crosses the border, just crosses the border into being harsh. It is so basic that, like I said, you just cross into the border from softness to harshness. Imam Ja'far ibn Muhammad al-Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam, Allahumma salli ala has been quoted as saying that if there was in the Arabic terminology a word softer than off, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would have used that in this particular verse. That means in today's terminology, we can say that, for example, mom calls you for dinner and we say, Mom, now? This is all off. Dad calls us that I need help with something. Can I let you finish my game? Can I do this? Or do I have to? This could be the terminology of off in today's day and age. That when we do anything to rebel against the order that our parents have given us, this is what it could be. فَلَا تَقُلْ لَهُمَا أُفٍّ وَلَا تَنْحَرْهُمَا وَقُلْ لَهُمَا قَوْلًا كَرِيمًا. A man goes to Imam Zainul Abidin Ali ibn al-Husayn Sayyid al-Sajidin, and he says, Muhammad wa Ali. He says, Yabna Rasulullah, I took my mother for Hajj. I took her for Hajj. Hajj today is really different than the Hajj from when we were talking about Imam Sajjad's time. I mean, I'm not saying it's less, but we have a very comfortable Hajj nowadays. I mean, this Hajj was a difference, was an exception. But if you have gone to Hajj today, and you're doing the tawaf, or you're doing the sa'i, and you will remember you were one of the ones that said that you've gone for Hajj, see? You'll know that, mashallah, the tiles have got nice cool water, so you can go barefoot and you feel like you're in the nice, North Pole or something. It's very, very peaceful to do it. The sa'i, the mountains of Safa and Marwa, they are covered, they're, covered, shaded, so you're not feeling the heat. We're talking about a time when the burning sands is there, you're doing Hajj, your feet are on fire, your head is on fire, you are not in a very comfortable state. This man goes to Imam Zain al-Abidin, he says, I took my mother for Hajj on my shoulders. I did the tawaf with my mother on my shoulders. I did the salah and everything. I went from Safa to Marwa. She was on my shoulders. I took her to Jabal al-Rahb. I took her to the Muzdalifah, to Mina, everything. She could not walk. Have I fulfilled the right of the mother? Have I fulfilled the mother's right? The Imam replies that you have not even fulfilled one day that you were in her womb when you've done all of that. In spite of having done all of that, you have not even fulfilled one day. One of the things that a mother's dua is, and the mothers who are in this audience will be able to appreciate this and understand. When I have to look after my mother, who is aged or aging, or I have to look after my father, who is aged or aging, in the back of my mind, what do I have? That one day they'll be gone and my responsibility is done, my hands will be washed, and I'm doing whatever I can with that thought, that one day they're going to be gone. It's a cycle, it's a subliminal thought. It won't come to the mind. It may, inshallah, not come into the mouth or anything. But this is what I have in the back of my mind when I am serving my parents. When the parents are doing something for you, especially your mother, what does she have in her mind? Oh Allah, keep my child safe and secure, give him a long or give her a long and healthy life. She doesn't think about our death. She doesn't think. You know, the same Imam, the fourth holy Imam, his birth mother had actually passed away at the time of childbirth. So when he was born, his birth mother had passed away. So he was brought up by what we would call a stepmother. And so even with his stepmother, whenever he would sit down to eat, he would wait for her to finish putting whatever she wanted on her plate, and then he would eat. Somebody asked him, Yabna Rasulullah, why are you doing this? The Imam replied that I don't want an opportunity to come where she is reaching for something. At the same time, I am reaching for that thing. My hand goes on top of her hand. He says, I want to avoid that, so I let her finish first, and then I will eat. And then I will eat. The same Prophet of Islam says, Al-ghadab al-ab ghadab Allah, that if your father is angry or displeased with you, understand that Allah is displeased with you. So right away, the interrelationship, the obedience to the parents, the Quran has laid the foundation for, Islam has laid the foundation for. And it very clearly says that even whether they are disbelievers or they are believers, in the case that they are disbelievers, in many cases we are actually told from the life of the Prophet and the Ahlul Bayt, be even kinder to them and show them through your example and through your character that this is the message, the sublime message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what Islam teaches us. When one of the battles was taking place and a new Muslim had come to the Prophet and says, Ya Rasulullah, I want to go to the battle, I want to join you. The Prophet says, yes, but you have a mother at home. The man replies, this young man replies, yeah, but Ya Rasulullah, she is not a Muslim, she's a kafir, she's a disbeliever. So can I please come? The Prophet said, but she needs you. The man says, yes, but and this but, or he was dedicated, he was sincere. We're not saying, doubting his iman or anything. The Prophet says you will get the same, if not more thawab, divine reward, by looking after her, regardless of what her religious ethnicity is. You'll get more thawab, if not the same, looking after her as you will going onto the battlefield and fighting jihad fi sabilillah. Allahu Akbar. Sallallahu The parents, by the same token, you lay down the foundation, and usually parents get really happy when I say all these things. They get, Islam sometimes becomes we've talked about this just in passing, it becomes a buffet religion. People like and pick and choose. The poor people love the zakat and the sadaqah and the khums issues. The rich don't like this part of it, but they like other things. The downtrodden, the peasants, they enjoy this equality because now I can be the same in the same line as the other social elite. And so, we pick and choose. So parents will like this, but then when we talk about children's rights, it's all of a sort of, the ears go off and, the mind goes into a different direction. Today I'm not going to listen to this part of the Sheikh's talk. Well, please listen. And please understand. Because the same way that I mentioned that, each person around us is an amana from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Each person is a trust from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as our bodies are, as our vision, sight, hearing, nose, and everything else is. The same way our children are also a trust from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. By no means are we allowed to abuse them in any way, shape, or form whatsoever. In fact, our obligation is to give them a good name to begin with, to start with. A name that has a meaning. A name that has got something that is, beautiful, that when people call them, they will feel and they will have those characters of that name, that person you've kept. Oftentimes when people are expecting, they'll call us. They call me in the office in Kitchener, and they say, Shaykh, mashallah, my wife is expecting, mashallah, mabruk, barakallah fikum. Can you suggest some names? So, give them 5 or 6 good names. If it's a girl, what better name than Fatima, Zainab, Sakina, Ruqayya, Khadija. If it's a boy, Muhammad is obviously the most common name in the entire world. Ali is there, Hassan is there, we've got, Kumail, so beautiful. Then the next sentence is, but Maulana, those are old-fashioned names. We want some, hip names, modern names. I says, like what? He says, it's okay if we name them after somebody in Hollywood or somebody in Bollywood or somebody in this wood or somebody that. I said, just keep in mind, remember one thing. You name them after these actresses and these actors. Make sure that on the day of judgment, wherever that actress or actor is, your son or daughter is not in that same line. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. You've noticed I've avoided taking these names because then the first people say, how does the Shaikh know those names? So, we're not blinded to what's around us. Please keep that in mind as well. We don't have little self-isolation and things that are there. We know what's going on. We understand what's happening. Just because we don't say anything openly and outwardly doesn't mean that we don't know what is happening around. And so the giving of the name is the important. Then to train them in loving manners, in the recitation of the Quran, the love of the Ahlul Bayt. And not only we've been talking about in these discussions as well. Spirituality is one thing, religiosity is another thing. But at the same time, Islam has encouraged us to make sure that their physical capabilities and abilities are there. We are encouraged to train them in horseback riding, in archery, in making sure that their physical activities are there. We don't want a society of people who are just sitting there, on the couch, and they say, in English, they say couch potatoes. This is something Islam has told us right from the beginning. Parents should encourage physical activity. And one of the ways, they encourage them is by the parents themselves, unless they have a disability or unless they're, injured or something, that's different. But they themselves should. And this applies all across my sisters and my brothers, and especially parents who are here. Remember one thing, children will not listen to your words, children will listen to your actions. So many parents you will see, they'll tell their child, son, daughter, go pray namaz, do your salah, go do the salah. And they're sitting there with the television on their computer, on their phone. They'll listen to your words, Baba, why are you on your phone and I can't be on my phone at the time of salah? And so don't create a hypocritical nature and environment for your children and for yourselves. If you are telling them to go pray, make sure you also go and pray and stay ready. And I often encourage people, one of the challenges that we, as individuals have is what's called the warm-up period, the warm-up period. If the time for salah, for example, is 8:10 p.m., this is the time for Salatul Maghrib, give or take. Okay, what do? At 8:11, we start getting ready. Right? So the kids get out. So we're missing right away, at the outset, we're missing a little bit of the fadila of the awwal time. Now, look at what we have learned from the West. Look at what we have learned from the Olympics. Or what we learned, any of you in school, you had phys ed, physical education, right? Before you go to play basketball, before you go to play soccer, before you go to play volleyball, what is the first thing you do after you've changed and you're ready to go? What is the first thing they tell you to do? Jazakallah. Warm-ups. You warm up and then you go into the game. La ilaha illallah. If the time for salah is 8:10, starting at 8 o'clock, do the warm-ups. Start getting all these, the mind clear, getting these shaitanic things out of the way, all these ilahs that might have built up since the time of Salatul Asr, and do the warm-up spiritually. Start doing your wudu, start getting your family ready, and the ideal thing would be to have Salatul Jamaat in your homes at every night and every prayer that you possibly can. What a golden opportunity we have now that many, not all, many parents are home. And they say in English, this is not even an Islamic adage. This is an English adage. It says the family that prays together stays together. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Start ahead of time. Start a little bit before. And you'll see then, you'll reach a point where if the time for salah, the child themselves will say, Baba, Mommy, let's get ready for salah. Let's get ready for the prayers. And that is when you know as a parent you have conveyed the duty that is upon you. One of the things, and this ties in very directly with what we've been talking about, a guardian, a parent, has another obligation that doesn't get discussed much. You will hear so many times that, the parents should teach them good values, good morals, make sure they pray salat as much as possible. When they're 7 years old, try and, insist them to do sajda, insist them to at least, join in the prayer, even if they can't recite it properly, whatever. They do all these good things. But if you look at the books of fiqh, of jurisprudence, you'll find one thing very interesting. On the wali, on the caretaker, if it's a Muslim caretaker, on the wali, the responsibility of conveying good deeds is mustahab. It is sunnah. But to prevent that child from doing haram, from doing forbidden things, is wajib. Yani Islam has laid down a foundation that it is more important. And Shaheed Dastaghaib, Ayatollah al-Uzma, Shaheed Dastaghaib, in his book, Greater Sins, Gunahan Kabira, in Farsi, it has been translated in a number of... He mentions that the Prophet and the Ayyimas, he summarizes, he says it is more important to refrain from forbidden actions than it is to perform good deeds. La ilaha. You see how it ties in. Better to refrain from forbidden deeds than to do mustahab good deeds. And so the same obligation is on the wali of the child, that make sure that even if they don't pray, but make sure they're not eating something haram. Make sure they're not watching something haram. Make sure they're not listening to something haram. That is an obligation. That is wajib on the parent or on the wali. Salat and making them fast and making them, do their khums and zakat, that comes later on. So the injunctions from Islam become very clear. We had also left off on the main interrelationship, and that is between the husband and the wife. Because again, whenever I go to a marriage ceremony, the times that I get invited and they want to say, okay, you do the act. I make a condition. I actually have a condition. If any of you are getting married, this condition you have to remember, if you decide to invite me. If you don't, then alhamdulillah, you don't have to worry. The condition is I'm going to give a small talk. I just want to remind them of their obligations to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how the husband must take care of his wife, how the wife must take care of her husband. It's not a one-way traffic, it is a two-way traffic. And I mentioned many times in these discussions, to get respect is, what everybody wants, but to give respect, very few want to do that. And many faiths, many religions, one of the reasons why they say don't get married, don't have a family, and Islam rejects this monastery, this monk's ideology. It does not allow us, it does not tell us, it does not encourage us to live in a life of isolation. But people will say, but look, they're doing worship, they're doing ibadat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So why does Islam not encourage? Because Allah is the creator, Allah knows. Allah knows what we need. Allah knows what is best for the community, the society as a whole. And so the reason or the excuse that many of these faiths give is if you get married, then you are diverting love away from God and you're putting it in your spouse. So the woman was obeying or worshiping God. Now she's getting married, so now she doesn't love God as much as she has to love her husband. The husband is about to get married, and now he's going to start loving God less, loving the Almighty less, and now he has to love his wife. So that's taking away. And so Islam took a completely 180-degree turn from this ideology. It rejected this celibacy stand, and it said that no, when you get married, first of all, the first step is when you get married, your salat, your ibadat increases 70 times. Your 2 rakat salat is worth 70 times more than it was before you were married. And so when you are loving your spouse, when you listen to your spouse, and when you obey your spouse, as long as they're not telling you to do something haram or forbidden, you are not getting away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you are actually loving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself. Allahumma. When the husband helps his wife, when the wife helps her husband, when the children love their parents, when the parents love their children, they're not diverting any love away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because if Allah has ordered us to do this, then Allah ta'ala will give us reward from the same way as if we are loving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To take care of and safeguard these trusts. That's why there was a companion in the time of the Holy Prophet. His name was Sa'ad. When he passed away, the Prophet of Islam himself recited Salatul Mayyit. He recited and he announced to the ashab, he said that there are 70,000 angels who are reciting Salatul Mayyit for Sa'ad. After everything was done, the mother goes down and says, Sa'ad, mashallah, Jannat Mubarak, Jannat Mabruk. You're going to be in heaven. The Prophet says that, how did you say that? He says, Ya Rasulullah, you did his Salatul Mayyit. You said 70,000 angels recited the Salah, and other things as well. I just don't have the time to go into it right now. But the Prophet had said so much that the Prophet says he is first going to face a very severe retribution. So everybody was startled. What happened? He says, because at home, he was not pleasant with his wife and his family. he was what we would call in today's terminology somewhat abusive. And so he's going to go through a very difficult chain. He's going to go through a very difficult time because, outside he would do his ibadat, he would do this, that he was worthy of, this other ajr. But in the home, because of this, there will be a severe retribution from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this. And so we are told to be pleasant in our houses. So many times you'll find people in the community, in the Husayniyah, in the masjid, they're the nicest person you'll ever find. They're the soft-spoken, they're so beautiful. But if you were to ask their family members, they'll say, oh, he's a tyrant at home. He's like a butcher at home. He is, Allahu Akbar, he's a lion at home. He's not. And remember one thing, the first responsibility and the reckoning will not be how did you interact with outsiders and with the Ahlul Masajid, the Ahlul Husayniyah. How were you with your family at home? Were you a tyrant, a dictator? Were you brutal? Or were you living the same image? It's very easy to portray a loving and a pleasant image outside. Everybody thinks, I am nice, you are nice. But if I'm a tyrant at home, the accountability for that will be more severe than the niceness that I show, because then I will also have been crossing into the path towards nifaq, hypocrisy. And nifaq is more deadly and punishable than kufr is, than disbelief. Often, you will have, yesterday we mentioned, Hazrat Amir al-Mu'mineen enters the house. Assalamu alayki ya bint Rasulullah. Wa alayka assalam ya Abul Hasan ya Amir al-Mu'mineen. You see how, the terms of endearment are there. What is the sad thing in our society, in our community, is that we have kept terms of endearment for outsiders and we've kept abusive terms. And I'm not talking about anybody, I'm just generalizing a statement based on what I have seen. So please do not feel that I'm pointing at anybody or I'm saying something or at anybody in specific. What we find is that we keep terms of endearment for outsiders and we keep nasty terms for our insiders. And sometimes you'll hear the husband talking to his secretary wife, hey honey, hey darling. And at home it's, Zahra, is the food ready? Khadija, where's my slippers? What happened? And I actually, when I was having this discussion, one of the newly married couples, he was saying, yeah, but Shaykh, don't you know Surah Hujurat? I said, what does Surah Hujurat say? Surah Al-Hujurat says, don't call each other by nicknames. MashaAllah. Thank you for telling me what Surah Al-Hujurat said. One salawat. Jazakallah khair. Baba, since when have you become a mufassir of the Quran? Since when have you become a commentator of the Quran? The Quran says don't call each other nicknames. That means don't call embarrassing, humiliating or nasty nicknames to each other. Terms of endearment are rewardable by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is the message we have got from the Ahlul Bayt. Instead of calling your secretary or co-worker or others or your subordinates or your superiors, darling and honey, try saying that at home and see what an environment you will create in the family. See what an environment you'll create. The same respect we give to an outsider, try giving that same respect and love and cherishing. Because every day is a new challenge. The family inside the home is a challenge. And we sometimes become negligent. We become almost apathetic. We take it for granted, our families. And then we wonder, why are divorce rates skyrocketing? Why are family issues, marital problems skyrocketing? It's because we ourselves are to blame. There's nobody else that we can blame. We are not as patient as we need to be. We are not as loving as we need to be. We are not as considerate as we need to be. We are not as intellectual and intelligent as we need to be. If we bring about this and we follow, as I mentioned yesterday, follow the true example of Hadith-e-Qissa and how the Prophet and the family lived, instead of just hearing it in one ear, taking it out of the other ear and saying this is just a narration to be heard and recited. If we do that, then yes, these problems arise. But if we act upon it, if we apply it in our day-to-day lives, you will see, I can guarantee you, inshallah, bi'idhnillah, 75 to 85% of our problems will be solved right there and then. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And I can assure you, my sisters and brothers, I'm not a commentator, I'm not a faqih, I am nothing but a student of just alif ba. But I can guarantee you one thing, that if you do cherish and love your families, whether it's the wife or the husband, the parents or the grandparents, and you look after them and respectfully tell them, then I have no doubt you will get the same thawab as a mujahid who is fighting alongside Rasulullah fi sabilillah at the time of Badr or Uhud. Inshallah bi'idhnillah. Because this is what we have been taught. This is a jihad in itself. Jihad doesn't mean, and the most illogical translation of the word jihad has been holy war. Holy war is harb al-aqdas. There's no such thing in Islam as harb al-aqdas. Jihad means struggle, jahada, to strive, to do better, and to make sure that we try to treat each other with as much love and respect as possible. One teacher of mine used to give a very beautiful example. In some of the villages in India, what they used to do, when the father would get old, when the father would get aged, they would put him in a basket, and they would take him near the river, one of the Ganges River, one of those big rivers. They would just leave him there to die. They would just go put the basket down, he would come back home, and basically the father would pass away, die like that, starved, whatever. So one day, this man was putting his elderly father, in this basket. The father couldn't walk or do much on his own. But the father was crying a bit, my son, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? So the father still put him in. He was about to take the basket to the door to take him to the river, when the little boy, his son, comes and says, Baba, yes. When you drop Dada by the river, can you please bring the basket back? So he said, yeah, maybe he wants to put his toys in it, maybe he wants to play with it. He says, sure, sweetheart, I'll bring the basket back. What do you want to do with the basket? So the little boy replies, he says, so that when you get old, I'll use the same basket to take you to the river. The man didn't take his father anywhere after that. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. We often realize, we often think that whatever we do is done and nothing will come back. No, things will come back to get us. Remember, what happened, what goes around, comes around. In ahsantum ahsantum li anfusikum hal jazaa'ul ihsan illa al-ihsan. Whatever good you do, it'll be for yourself. Whatever reward, whatever goodness you've done to others, it'll come back to you. So don't think that it will not. And so when we establish and strengthen the family base, then we know that inshallah we are truly serving our Imam. And look at the example of how the Imam's own respect, and those who truly follow the Imams, how their lives were reflected upon this. And so this is the example that needs to be followed and practically implemented. Not just to be heard, not just that we say, mashallah, subhanallah, that's a very good story, that's a very good narration. No. It has to be put into practice. If we don't put it into practice, we have not really achieved what we need to. We have not really achieved what we need to. When we sometimes feel good about ourselves that we've done something, we think something, we just think that, I came to the majlis, for 10 days and nights, I sacrificed an hour, I wore black. But if we have not changed, and if we're at the same square that we were on the 29th or 30th of Dhul Hijjah, then perhaps we need to do a little bit of self-analysis, a little bit of a self-assessment. That Mawla, am I a better mu'min? Am I a better Muslim? Am I a better abid than I was at the last day of Dhul Hijjah? If the answer is yes, alhamdulillah, you are successful. You are successful. But if the answer is no, then maybe I need to do a little more research, a little more betterment. And you see, this is where our jihad becomes jihad. This is where the message of the Imam becomes implemented. I wanted to start a discussion on the 12th Imam, but inshallah we will leave that for tomorrow, because there's a couple of things. The night of remembering Abul Fadl is very important. One of the things that the commentators have said, when Amirul Mu'mineen, after Hazrat Zahra had passed away and he was about to marry Ummul Baneen, he had asked his brother to look for a spouse. He says, he tells Aqil, his brother, check the charts, look for a pious lady, a pious family, a good, reputable household, so that I can marry that person and I will have a child who will serve my son Hussein. One historian mentions that Imam Ali was Amirul Mu'mineen. He was Imam al-Muttaqeen. Who had more knowledge after the Holy Prophet of Islam than Ali ibn Abi Talib? Who would be more worthy of knowing something than Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wasalam? Right? No doubt. Why did Imam Ali tell Aqil to help him? Na'udhu billah, did Imam need the help? the historian writes that perhaps Imam Ali wanted to put a little bit of spark in Aqil, that if Ali is making preparations, you should as well. You know, so many issues and things can be said about this episode that I just spoke about. How Imam is not just looking at who's pretty, who's beautiful, who is tall, who is short, who is fit, who is not. The Imam is looking at a nobility criteria that also guides us as well when we are looking for potential spouses, and that guides us as well to be good criteria holding spouses as well. Like I said, it doesn't go one way. And so maybe that desire was put into Aqil as well. Hence, you have got Muslim ibn Aqil, who also laid down his life and became known as the first of the Shuhada of Karbala, even though he was not in Karbala. You remember I had mentioned him on the second night I think it was, whereby I said that 3 people could have turned the tables of Karbala. Imam didn't want to have a battlefield that he won the physical war. Imam wanted something much deeper that the community, the ummah, the world will remember till the day of Qiyamah. So when Hazrat Abul Fadl al-Abbas came into the womb of al-Baneen, Allahu Akbar, how she enters the household of Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, how she enters, she tells Hassan and Hussein alayhim salam, Sayyida Shabab Ahl al-Jannah, she tells them when she comes into the house of Mawla Ali, she says that I am coming into your household, I am not coming in as your mother, I am coming in as your servant. La ilaha illallah. She establishes that relationship at once. Then she has, as you know, that Hazrat Abbas had 3 other brothers who were all martyred on the plains of Karbala, but Hazrat Abbas stands out the most. Abdullah, Ja'far and Uthman. And Hazrat Abbas, all of them, very brave, warriors in their own right. After the events of Karbala, al-Baneen had requested the people, because al-Baneen, as you know, means the mother of sons. She says that just call me Fatima, do not call me al-Baneen. I have given everything I had in the way of Mawla. Hazrat Abul Fadl grows up in the lap of Amir al-Mu'mineen. He's growing up and everyone notices that there is a certain attachment between Abul Fadl and Hussein ibn Ali. At the time of the Shahadat of Mawla Ali, when the Imam was leaving on the 40th year of Hijrah, in the month of Ramadan, he calls all of his children over and he entrusts all of them to Hassan Mujtaba alayhi salam. He entrusts all of them except one. Abul Fadl was young at this time. Abul Fadl was young at this time. And he says gently to his father, who is himself suffering so much, he says, Baba, did you forget me? You didn't entrust me to my Mawla Hassan. Imam calls Hussein closer to him and says, I am entrusting you to Hussein because I know the love that you have for Hussein. And the children of Imam Hussein, as Abul Fadl grew up, the children of Imam Hussein were so attached to Abul Fadl that not only Ruqayya Sakina was attached, but all of the children who were in Karbala became so attached to Abul Fadl that they would not be able to do anything. They would see him as their hero. They would see him as their mentor. They would see him as their everything. And it was only because of Abul Fadl Abbas that these children had some hope whatsoever. So when the Imam was hearing the sounds of the children, when Abul Fadl was hearing the sounds of the children of Al-Atash, Al-Atash, we are thirsty, we are thirsty. At that time, Abul Fadl Abbas could not take it anymore. He goes to Imam Hussein and says, I know you will not let me go and fight, but at least let me go and try and quench the thirst of these children who are...
Abul Fadl Abbas started heading towards the river. He got to Al-Furat's river. He took a handful of water to drink. He remembered Al-Hussein alayhi salam's thirst. He remembered Sukaina He remembered الطفل الرضيع. So he spilled it and said, يا نفس من بعد الحسين هوني. Oh soul, after Hussein nobody counts. وبعده لا كنت أن تكوني. After him you to nothing amount. هذا الحسين وارد المنون. Here is Hussein nearing his end. وتشربين بارد المعين. While you drink of cool water. تالله ما هذا بفعل ديني. By Allah, such is not a deed. Then he filled the water bag. He went to the direction of the camp. His path was blocked. So he kept killing those who blocked it. Zayd ibn al-Hayn, Zayd ibn al-Hajj, لعنه Allah, ambushed him from behind a tree, dealing a sword blow to his right hand, completely severing it. He said, Wallahi انقطعتم يميني إني أحامي أبدا عن ديني. By Allah, if you cut off my right hand, I shall not cease defending my creed. وعن إمام صادق اليقين, and an imam true to his conviction do I defend. نجل النبي الطاهر الأمين, a son of the trustworthy Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi. Another enemy was hiding behind another tree. When he passed by, he struck him with his sword on his other hand. They all surrounded him. Arrows fell on him like rain. Oh my master, Ya Abul Fadl, piercing the water bag. So he held it with his teeth. An arrow pierced his chest. Another arrow pierced his holy eye. A man hit him with a pole on his head. Abul Fadl fell on the ground shouting, peace unto you from me, O father of Aba Abdullah. Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, he rushed to him. He raised his holy head. Al-Imam started cleaning the blood off his face. شال راس الحسين, يمسح الدم من عن جبينه. كسر قلب حين الشاف السهم نابت بعينه, وتحير بي ودار العين, ينظر ليساره ويمينه, يبكي ويتحسر عليه, وفت قلبه ونينه. يقول لها الساعة يا عباس, شمت عدونا بينا, وانكسر ظهري يا خويا, وانهدم شمل الضعينة. قل لي شلون ارجع للخيام ولاختك زينب وسكينة, شلون اقول راح البطل وطاحوا خلصتي سنينه، تقول لك يا قمر هاشم يا عم الوعد وينه. الإمام الحسين يقول له يا خويا بخوتك ما حد مثيلك، يا نور العين خليني أشيلك. يقول له أبو فاضل، يقول له خويا خليني بمكاني. يقول له ليش يا زهرة زماني، يقول له واعد تسكين تراني بماي واستحي منها من اسديه. Imam al-Hussein started heading back to the khiyam. يا يحرد للخيم مكسور ظهره، وتلقتها زينب بعبره تنشده وهي تجذب الحسره. عباس قل ايش صار بامره، يا ريت عمري فدى العمره، يا ريت عمري فدى العمره. قالها وصفق اليمنى باليسرى. عباس نايم على الغبره، والعلم يا زينب بكتره، صواب العمد بالراس ضره، قطع الامل منا يا حره، قطع الامل منا يا حره. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون، والعاقبة للمتقين. طيبوا أفواهكم بالصلاة على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إلهي بعز صفاتك وبعز جلالك وبعظم أسمائك وبعصمة أنبيائك وبنور أوليائك وبدم شهدائك وبمداد علمائك وبدعاء صلحائك وبمناجاة فقرائك نسألك زيادة في العلم وصحة في الجسم وطولا في عمري في طاعتك واسعة في الرزق وتوبة قبل الموت وراحة عند الموت ومغفرة بعد الموت ونور في القبر ونجاة من النار ودخولا في الجنة وعافية من كل بلاء الدنيا وعذاب الآخرة بحق محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Oh Allah, forgive our sins, give us the tawfiq to remain away from sins, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, we ask you to accept this azah from us, this commemoration that we are doing for Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. We ask Hazrat Fatima Zahra to do our shifaat bihaqqi Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas. Oh Allah, those who are ill, grant them shifa kamila from their illnesses. Those who are in debt, help them fulfill their debts. Ya Allah, those who are suffering sustenance problems, who don't have a job, who don't have enough rizq, Ya Allah, increase their barakah, increase their rizq, increase their sustenance. Ya Allah, the marhumin, the deceased who have left us, who have left this world, grant them maghfirat by your mercy. When we leave this world, protect us from the difficulties of maut and in the qabr and in the day of Yawm al-Qiyamah. Ya Allah, protect our ulama, our maraja, our mujtahideen, the wali, faqih, the rahbar, all those who are serving while the Imam is in occultation, grant them a long and healthy life and safety with all the difficulties that are around them, Ya Allah. Help the mu'mineen who are suffering, the Muslims who are suffering in Afghanistan, in Iraq, in Pakistan, in Yemen, in Bahrain, in Syria, in Palestine, in Nigeria, wherever there may be suffering, in Kashmir, in Rohingyas, in Burma. Ya Allah, hasten the downfall of the oppressors and grant the mustad'afeen a speedy victory, Ya Allah. We ask you, bihaqqi hadha shahr al-Muharram, to return our Mawla to us. Return Imam al-Hujjah to us and make us amongst the ashab in the ansar of the Imam. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم. الفاتحة مع الصلوات.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أحسنتم مولانا. Brother Hadi, أجركم الله. Please, let's repeat the Surah Al-Mubarakat Al-Fatiha of the Niyyah of the Shifa of Ruqayya, the daughter of our brother Danny, and everyone who is in need, inshallah, and who's sick. So please, Al-Fatiha, مسبوقة بالصلاة على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Please help me welcome Brother Abu Zahra for Latmiya with a loud salawat.
For the love of Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad, sallu ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. Inshallah, today is the night of Al-Fadl al-Abbas alayhi salam. We want participation, we want your voice to reach Karbala, inshallah. خل تسمع كل الناس أنا مجنون العباس. 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 خل تسمع أنا مجنون العباس. خل تلوم أهل الملامة مثل ما شفت بعيوني. فاطمي أنا وحسيني، فاطمي أنا وحسيني، وأنا معروف بجنوني، وأنا معروف بجنوني. خل تلوم أهل الملامة مثل ما شفت بعيوني. فاطمي أنا وحسيني، وأنا معروف بجنوني، وأنا معروف بجنوني. أنا غيرة لي وحساس، أنا مجنون العباس. أنا غيرة لي وحساس، أنا مجنون العباس. خل تسمع، خل تسمع كل الناس، أنا مجنون العباس. خل تسمع كل الناس، أنا مجنون العباس. أنا أبو فاضل نطاني غيرتي واسمي وكياني. لهالسبب مني الطفولة يلهج باسمه لساني، يلهج باسمه لساني. وأنا قدسته وجعلته كعبتي وقبلة حياتي. جفي معقودي بجفوفه وما أعوف لحد مماتي، وما أعوف لحد مماتي. هيم برب النوماس، أنا مجنون العباس. هيم برب النوماس، أنا مجنون العباس. خل تسمع كل الناس، أنا مجنون العباس. خل تسمع كل الناس، أنا مجنون العباس. أخو زينب من خدمته حصلت أعظم كرامة. أنا من حق التفاخر صدري شرفته بوسامة، صدري شرفته بوسامة. أنا أفخر على الملوك ويا ملك يحمل وسامي. أبقى أخدم أبقى ألطم وأنا مرتاح بهيامي، وأنا مرتاح بهيامي. لابس تاج على الراس أنا مجنون العباس، لابس تاج على الراس أنا مجنون. خل تسمع خل تسمع كل الناس أنا مجنون العباس، خل تسمع كل الناس إني أنا العباس وأخذو بالثقة أبا الفاضل، إني أنا العباس وأخذو بالثقة أقاتل القوم بقلب مهند، أذب عن صبت النبي أحمد، أضربكم بالصارم المهند حتى تحيدوا عن قتال سيدي، حتى تحيدوا عن قتال سيدي. إني أنا العباس ذا التودد، نجل علي المرتضى المؤيد، لا أرهب الموتى إذا الموتى رقه، لا أرهب الموتى إذا الموتى رقه، حتى أواري ميتا عند اللقاء، نفسي لنفس الطاهر الطهر وقه. إني صبور شاكر في الملتقى، إني أنا العباس وسعد باللقاء، نفسي لنفس الطاهر الصبت الوقاء. والله إن قطعتم يميني، والله إن قطعتم يميني، إني أحامي أبدا عن ديني، إني أحامي أبدا عن ديني وعن إمام صادق اليقين، سبت النبي الطاهر الأمين، نبي الصدق جاءنا بالدين، مصدقا بالواحد الأمين. يا نفس من بعد الحسين هوني، يا نفس من بعد الحسين هوني، وبعده إن كنت لا تكوني. هذا حسين شارب المنون، وتشربين بارد المعين، وتشربين بارد المعين. هيهات ما هذا فعال ديني، ولا فعال صادق اليقين. يا نفس لا تخشي من الكفار، يا نفس لا تخشي من الكفار، وأبشري برحمة الجبار مع النبي سيد الأبرار، مع جملة السادات الأطهار. قد قطعوا ببغيهم يساري، فأصلهم يا ربي حر ناري. يا نفس لا تخشي من الكفار، يا نفس لا تخشي من الكفار، وأبشري برحمة الجبار مع النبي سيد الأبرار، مع جملة السادات الأطهار. قد قطعوا ببغيهم يساري، فأصلهم يا ربي حر ناري. يا عباس يا عباس يا عباس يا عباس أبا الفاضل يا عباس، أبا الفاضل يا عباس، يا عباس أبا الفاضل يا عباس، يا أبا الفاضل يا عباس، يا عباس. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
الحجة جميعا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. وصل اللهم على محمد وآله الطاهرين.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أحسن أحسن. طيب الله أنفاسك. Thank you so much. Before we leave, I want to say, inshallah, tonight there is also food to go. Please help yourself. And we want to thank all the sponsors who sponsored this special night of Abu Fadl Abbas, and everyone who donated, and also everyone who's attending and helping. Please, we'll send to them, inshallah, the Surah Al-Barakat Al-Fatiha, مسبوقة مع الصلوات على محمد وآل محمد.